The crash had torn through the forest like a meteor, leaving a smoking scar across the Oregon wilderness. 6-year-old Kevin had heard it from his bedroom window, a sound like thunder splitting the night sky. While his parents slept, he'd slipped out through the back door, flashlight in hand, following the orange glow between the pines. He found her in a crater of scorched earth, her spacecraft nothing more than twisted metal and dying lights. She was tall, impossibly tall, with skin that shimmered like oil on water and eyes that held 3 irises each, rotating independently. Blue blood seeped from a gash across her side. "Please," she whispered in a voice that seemed to echo in his mind rather than his ears. "Water." Kevin didn't scream. He didn't run. Instead, he unscrewed his water bottle and carefully helped her drink. Her name was Lisa, though that wasn't the sound she made. It was simply the closest his young mind could interpret. She was a Thalkreen scout, she explained over the following days, from a civilization that had been mapping the galaxy for 3,000 years. Her ship's navigation system had malfunctioned near Earth's moon, and the crash landing had damaged her emergency beacon beyond repair. Kevin became her lifeline. He smuggled food from the kitchen, brought bandages he'd taken from the medicine cabinet, and sat with her for hours while his parents thought he was playing in the woods. Lisa's wounds healed with remarkable speed. Her physiology operated on principles that made human biology seem primitive by comparison. "Your species is young," Lisa told him on the 4th day, her translation device finally repaired enough to convert her thoughts into English. "But there is something in you, something rare." "What?" Kevin asked, arranging a collection of pinecones he'd been using as imaginary spaceships. "Compassion without hesitation. Most species learn fear first. You learned kindness." On the 7th day, Lisa stood for the first time since the crash. She moved with a grace that seemed to defy gravity, her long limbs flowing like water. From the wreckage, she retrieved a case that had somehow survived intact. Inside was a bow. But it wasn't like any bow Kevin had seen in his picture books. It was formed from a material that looked like crystallized light, shifting between solid and liquid states. The string hummed with a frequency just below hearing. "This is a resonance bow," Lisa explained. "My people developed archery not as a weapon but as a meditation, a way to understand the mathematics of the universe. Every shot is a calculation. Trajectory, wind resistance, gravitational pull, the Coriolis effect from planetary rotation. To master the bow is to master physics itself." She placed it in his small hands. It immediately resized, adapting to his grip. "I cannot return home," Lisa said quietly. "My beacon is destroyed, and my people will not search this sector again for another century. But before I find a way to survive on this world, I can give you something that will change yours." For 3 months, while his parents believed their son had discovered a passion for playing alone in the forest, Lisa taught Kevin the way of the bow. She started with breathing, teaching him to sense the oxygen content in the air, to feel how humidity affected density, how temperature created invisible currents. She taught him to calculate wind speed by watching leaves, to measure distance by the way sound traveled, to predict the arc of an arrow by understanding parabolic motion. "Mathematics is not abstract," Lisa would say, drawing equations in the dirt with a stick. "It is the language of reality itself. When you loose an arrow, you are speaking to the universe, and the universe responds with perfect honesty." Kevin absorbed it all with the fearless learning capacity of childhood. He didn't know he was studying calculus, fluid dynamics, or astrophysics. To him, it was just part of shooting. By the end of the first month, he could hit a target at 50 meters. By the second, he could calculate complex trajectories in his head. By the third, he understood principles of physics that wouldn't be taught in his school for another decade. But Lisa taught him more than archery. She told him stories of her people, of civilizations that had risen and fallen across the galaxy, of the great questions that even her ancient species hadn't answered. She taught him to think in multiple dimensions, to see patterns in chaos, to find beauty in mathematical elegance. "Why do you teach me all this?" Kivin asked one afternoon, after successfully hitting a target while accounting for a crosswind he'd calculated from memory. Lisa's triple irises spun thoughtfully. "Because your species will reach the stars, Kivin. Perhaps not in your lifetime, but soon. And when you do, you will need individuals who can think beyond the boundaries of your world. You have shown me that humans, despite your youth as a species, possess something remarkable, the ability to adapt, to learn, to extend compassion even to the alien and unknown." She paused, her hand resting on his shoulder. "I teach you because you taught me first. You saved my life without knowing what I was. That is not a common thing in the galaxy." As autumn turned to winter, Lisa's condition stabilized, but something was changing. Her skin had begun to dull, losing its iridescent quality. Her movements became slower. "I am dying," she told Kivin matter-of-factly one December morning. "The elements in your atmosphere, they are toxic to my biology in ways I did not initially understand. I have perhaps weeks remaining." Kivin felt tears streaming down his face. "Can't you fix it? Can't you make medicine?" "The materials do not exist on your world." Lisa knelt down to his eye level. "But do not grieve for me, little archer. I have lived 3 of your centuries. I have seen wonders you cannot imagine. And in my final days, I was given the gift of teaching someone who will matter." "I'm just a kid," Kivin protested. "Now, yes. But the skills I've given you, the way of seeing the world through mathematics and physics, the discipline of the bow, the understanding that the universe operates on principles that can be learned and mastered, these will grow with you. You will become something extraordinary." On the winter solstice, Lisa took Kivin to a clearing where moonlight pooled like silver water. She gave him the resonance bow. "This will grow as you grow," she said. "It is keyed to your biometric signature now. No one else can use it. Practice every day. Teach others when you are ready. And remember, every arrow you loose is a conversation with physics itself. Be honest in that conversation, and the universe will be honest with you." She placed one long, elegant hand on his head. "I have sent a message into deep space, encoded in quantum fluctuations that your scientists will not detect for generations. I have told my people of Earth, of humans, and of you. When they come, and they will come, they will remember the child who saved a dying scout and learned to speak the language of the stars." 3 days later, Kivin found her body in the clearing, her form already beginning to dissolve into the luminescent particles that Thalkreen returned to upon death. By morning, nothing remained except the bow in his hands and the knowledge in his mind. Kivin never spoke of Lisa to anyone. How could he explain? Instead, he practiced. Every day in the forest, he shot arrows and calculated trajectories. He excelled in school, particularly in mathematics and physics, though he never revealed the depth of what he truly understood. The bow remained his secret, his connection to a friend who had traveled light years only to die alone on a strange world, except she hadn't been alone. She'd had him. 20 years later, Dr. Kivin Chen stood in the laboratory of the International Space Agency. His doctoral thesis on non-Newtonian gravitational calculations spread across multiple screens. His work had revolutionized orbital mechanics, making possible the first human mission to Mars. On his desk sat a photograph of himself as a child, holding a bow that looked, to anyone else, like simple carved wood. Only he could see it shimmer in certain lights. Only he could feel it hum with that subsonic frequency. That night at the archery range he'd built behind his house, Kivin stood beneath the stars. He drew the resonance bow, feeling the familiar equations flow through his mind. Angle, velocity, wind speed, the Earth's rotation, the gravitational pull of the moon overhead. He loosed the arrow. It flew true, speaking its mathematical truth to the universe. Somewhere, impossibly far away, he imagined Lisa's people receiving her final message. And he smiled, knowing that when they finally came to Earth, they would find a species that had learned to reach for the stars, guided in part by a 6-year-old boy who had chosen kindness over fear, and who had learned that the universe rewards those honest enough to speak its language. The arrow struck the target center, perfect as always. "Thank you, Lisa," he whispered to the stars. And in the mathematics of the cosmos, in the quantum fluctuations that connected all things, perhaps somewhere, she heard,